Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Fleeting Thoughts podcast. I am Joe. I hope you had a good Thanksgiving. In this episode, I'm going to be reading my book review of Dune Messiah by Frank Herbert, as well as giving an update on my latest posts at joesnotesblog.com. Before I get started on the book review, I'm going to give you just a quick update on what you can find at my blog since the last time I did an update. All right. The first one is a photojournal from November 2nd, where I went to Lone Fir Cemetery. I've been there before. It is in Portland. It's a very interesting cemetery with lots of old and, unfortunately, new plots and really, really interesting colors. I tend to go there during the fall season where all the leaves are coming down, and there's some really cool colors there. And I got a chance to take pictures of some just really interesting gravestones, and it was right after Halloween, so there were pumpkins as well as squirrels and crows running around. So just an interesting look at the cemetery. The next post is a photojournal from 11/15, where I tested out my new lens, the Tamron 70-300, which is an f4 to f5.6. I went to Sandy River Delta, which usually you're going to be able to find some birds there, but when I went, it was very, very cold and cloudy, and there were not too many birds to take pictures of. I got one picture of a little yellow-headed fucking sparrow of some sort. It was nice to get out and try out the new lens. It's not the highest end lens, but it does have something called vibration control and autofocus, and it works very well with my Canon cameras, and it goes all the way up to 300, and it's not the cleanest lens, and with the Canon 80D, which is APS-C, it's not getting the most light. But in ideal situations, you can get really good shots. And the goal with buying that lens was to get something that was better for taking pictures of birds, which I really enjoy. But birds are a bit hard to photograph. Birds are a bit hard to photograph because they tend to fly away. They're up in trees. They're far away in general. And so I was excited to play around with that. The next photojournal is just a few days ago on the 23rd. I went out to Blue Lake Regional Park here in the kind of Fairview, Gresham, Portland area, and there were tons of animals there, and it was a lot of fun. I always find tons of squirrels there. There were geese, and I even saw a hummingbird that I didn't get a great shot of. There was a bluebird, and some other birds, and I got another macro shot of a mushroom and a water drop. That was really good. So that's actually one of my favorite outings in a while. A lot of squirrel photography going on over at Blue Lake. So check out my website to check out my other photojournals. If you go to the search bar at the bottom of the main page, you can search photojournal and just look through old photojournals, or just check out the newest ones that I have. I try to go out as much as I can and take as many photos as I can. And keep checking out the new photos with that new lens. The photojournal from Blue Lake is primarily using the new Tamron 70-300. All right, with the update put aside, I'm going to read the book review that I wrote for Dune Messiah by Frank Herbert. If you haven't read any of the Dune books, I definitely recommend them. It is a sci-fi classic. Or they are sci-fi classics. Dune is the first book, and it introduces you to this crazy, intricate world that Frank Herbert created. And I'm excited to get into the next book, which is called Dune Children. Oh, shit, what is it called? Oh, it's called Children of Dune. But anyway, here's my review. I would definitely recommend checking out the Dune books. I wrote, Frank Herbert is something else. While reading this book, my mind is drawn and quartered 1,000 times. It is pushed and pulled this way and that. I am like a child grasping for meaning, knowing it is there, but just out of reach. On the edge of understanding, I sit in awe of what might be on the other side. Comprehension just out of reach, and yet in the back of my mind, it has been there the whole time. The words are new, but they make sense. Like some dream that tries to incorporate elements that seem at first to be disconnected, only to discover later, maybe after a day or two of contemplation, that the meaning was there amidst the confusion. Then he brings you back, Frank Herbert. The man that sent you down the rabbit hole is there holding your hand and makes everything clear. Dune Messiah is the second in the Dune series, and it is a wonderful roller coaster. 1 minute I'm trying to follow the story and figure out what is happening, what might happen, and then the next minute I'm lost in the jargon and intrigue of a world I barely know. The internal ruminations of the characters, the dialogue, and the world that Frank Herbert created is so thoroughly its own that is like turning on a documentary from an alien world at an alien time. As much as it is unfamiliar, it is just familiar enough to cause a fury of excitement and suspense. The intrigue is palpable and enticing. It keeps you going and gives you hope. In this, the second story about the desert planet known as Dune, we wake up to the story of Paul Atreides, aka Muad'Dib, aka Usul, aka the ruler of the known universe. The book starts about 12 years after the end of the first Dune book. We find that with the help of violence, religious ideology, his prescient sister Aliyah, his Fremen soldiers, and his monopoly over the invaluable resource known as melange, Paul has brought his form of justice and leadership to all. He is known by some as a god and by others as a devil. He is not unaware of this duality and is plagued by his own doubt about the legacy he is creating. Paul tackles internal and external threats to his dynasty, but with his powers of foresight, he seems to be one step ahead of his enemies. While he attempts to root out the spies in his midst, he is also dealing with the matter of his succession plan. Chani, his concubine and true love, is pregnant, and there are many who would want to take advantage of her vulnerability and Paul's potential weakness toward her. He knows who to trust, but he doesn't always know if he can trust himself, and by the end, the true plot is revealed. Will Paul fall to the wiles of his enemies, or will he continue his violent conquest? Read to find out. Thank you very much for listening. If you want to read the review that I wrote on the first book called Dune, that is at the bottom of the post. Otherwise, just thank you for reading, Anyways, thank you for listening, and thank you for checking out the blog. Thanks for reading. Thanks for checking out my photos. And one of these days, I'll have a podcast post that is a little bit more podcasty and a little less bloggy, and a little less blah, blah, blah. All right. Thank you very much. Have a good one.